What's up, guys? Welcome to Courtside Soundoff podcast today. I'm Josh Evanoff. He's in Ortega. Um, UFC stuff, not really any boxing. Surprisingly, we talked about Jake Paul and Gibb, which is happening tonight. But we talked about that last week. A little bit, mostly going to be an NBA talk because, as you all know, I'm not breaking any news here, but Kobe Bryant passed away Sunday afternoon at the age of 41. He was on a helicopter and he was going to a basketball practice with his daughter, Gigi, who was 14, and some other parents and coaches on the team. We're going to practice, and we don't know the exact cause yet of the accident. They did say it was a foggy day, and I saw that a lot of LAPD helicopters were not even in the air. They weren't allowed to be in the air, and most other there weren't a whole lot of people out because it was very, very foggy, and they were also going to be flying around mountains. And we don't know the exact reason, but that's believed to be the reason. All in all, 9 people passed away, and yeah, so we found out Sunday afternoon, about a couple hours later. Personally, I was at work, and I'm sure Angel's probably gonna tell his story of how he found out. Which, yeah, but I got a text from my girlfriend saying that Kobe died in a helicopter crash, and not even 15 seconds later, I was sitting around with my friends right before about to leave work, and my friend goes, "Guys, Kobe Bryant's dead." And I'm like, "No, he's not. You're bullshitting me." Even though I got in the text from my girlfriend and he said it, I'm like, "You're bullshitting me. There's no way you're telling the truth." And he started scrolling through all the articles, and I'm like, "Fuck, this is real." And like, it's like it was like a scene out of a movie because I was walking by people and everybody was finding out at the same time, and like everybody was talking about it. And I saw this one dude, his friend pulled up aside. He's like, "Yo, dude, Kobe died." And he goes, "Bryant?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he shows him his phone, and I saw this dude's face instantly crumble. Like you could just see it on his face, and it was fucking terrible. Um, this is a hard subject to talk about because this is a fun podcast. I'm trying to talk about sports and shit. It's typically going to be a fun thing, and we're going to talk about the ways to honor Kobe and our favorite Kobe moments. But Angel, how did you find out, and what was your kind of initial reaction to the news?
I mean, just like we were talking before we started recording, I was at work. I still work at a shoe store. I sell shoes, and some lady came in asking for Kobe's. This was even before the news had even broken. This is kind of just to give you an idea how my day started. Early in the morning, not super early, like around 11. Early for me since I don't wake up early, for the most part. Lady comes in, asks about some Kobe shoes. I was like, oh, we don't have any. I'd probably check these other stores here nearby just in case. And I was like, it's been a while since I heard the name Kobe just mentioned in conversation, just because he hasn't been in the league, and I just haven't heard a lot about him recently. I just thought that was kind of interesting, but it flew over my head after that. And then the day goes on, I go on break, and I grab my phone. I always grab my phone for any reason. I never leave it. And I'm heading out, and I open a message from Josh, and it says Kobe died, and I'm like, first of all, this has to be a fucking joke. It doesn't even sound realistic, I mean, Morgan Freeman's been told he's been dead for 5 years straight now, and I mean, the man's still around. And I go get my food, and I mentioned the news to someone, and there's like no way, and I start pulling up news articles, and I'm like this. Then I say it's TMZ, and TMZ is surprisingly generally correct with that kind of stuff, and that's when I knew. It wasn't like I hadn't like fully like I was like, oh, like I knew Kobe died, but it hadn't hit me probably not till the next day. Like I can't, and probably around that moment when I found out, I come back to work, and that's when everybody started finding out. I, Everybody started talking about it, and news kept coming out. There was this amount of people, this many people on the plane. His daughter was on the plane, so on and so forth. Throughout the day, we kept getting news, rumors. It was rumors about Rick Fox being on the plane and stuff like that. He ended up not being on it, but I mean I'm sure that was a scare to his family. And I mean, God, it didn't seem real just because of the person, and it still doesn't seem real now, and it doesn't seem real to a lot of people.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like real. It doesn't feel like a situation that's happening. Like every single time I see the highlight, like Kobe Bryant dead at 41 or blank honors Kobe Bryant or whatever, it doesn't feel fucking real. Like it just because honestly, there's been a lot of tragic sports accidents. You know, Rocky Marciano passing, obviously also in a plane accident. Um, accident, you know, like crash, whatever. And another one, Dale Earnhardt Jr. I'm not junior, senior. Not a NASCAR fan, but I'm sure that was a devastating day because he was probably the biggest person they've ever had, and he obviously died out of nowhere, literally on during the race. Those are the only one. Like those are some of the ones I can remember. And there's been a lot of them. There's been some tragic ones. Boxing has had people die in the ring, and it's just but it's nothing like this because Kobe Bryant was more than just a basketball player. He was an icon, not only for you know basketball, but for people. You know, I don't think anyone kind of expected anything like this to ever happen. Like this is there was a generation that kids that they grew up yelling Kobe when they threw shit into a trash can. Like it wasn't you didn't have to follow basketball to follow greatness. And I was never a giant basketball fan. I mean, Kobe was probably the first basketball player I ever knew of. The '08 Celtics versus the Lakers was the first actual basketball series I ever kind of followed because I love that Boston big three of Allen, KG, and Pearson. So those are some of my favorite guys of all time. But even then, I couldn't disrespect the greatness of Kobe losing that year and then coming back and winning the following year and then beating the Celtics in a rematch in an amazing series. And then I watched his final game. I chose to watch that final game, and I followed him for the past couple of years of his career when I actually started getting more and more into basketball and became a diehard fan. Um, it's terrible. Favorite Kobe moments for me. Obviously the one that I'm gonna pick is probably the one that I was, I say there for. I wasn't there for it, but I watched it, and it's got to be the 60-point game, the final game of his career, because I remember. I also remember having a conversation with Angel the morning of that because we were talking about the NBA because we used to sit at a breakfast table in high school like every single morning. We'd get there a bit early and we talk about sports, we talk about shit. We do like UFC fantasy pick'ems and we talk about basketball and shit. And I vividly remember because we were talking about that because it was a game that the Warriors had to win. You know, they were playing the same night as that, and if they won, they'd have the 73 wins. We were both kind of generally like, fuck it, we're watching Kobe's final game instead. I remember that conversation, and I was really looking forward to it. And I saw people dog him for that game too. He's like, oh, he didn't, he had terrible shooting, and I don't remember his percentage actually being that bad. I know he took a shitload of shots, but everybody knew he was going to take a bunch of shots. That's just that's a given. It's Kobe Bryant's final game in basketball. Whenever it's like a final game, uh, not all the time, obviously. Like I don't remember, but a guy like Kobe who was still known for shooting a bunch of shots and was still at a decent level. Like obviously he wasn't the Kobe Bryant of old, especially after the Achilles, but he was still a pretty good player. He was still starting worthy of getting a bunch of minutes. Um, so it's that 60-point game is probably my favorite Kobe moment in general, just because I don't think anyone expected him to go for that. Like it's the great. It's not only just that the fact of how good it was. It's the greatest farewell game in sports history. Um, Literally, you can throw other things out there. You can throw out Peyton Manning ending his career, John Elway ending their careers, winning the Super Bowl. But they won the game. They won the big game, but they didn't do a whole lot. Especially Peyton Manning. I could have done what Peyton Manning did in that final season of handing the ball off to Ronnie Hillman and letting the defense just do work. Elway was more significant in their Super Bowl run, but that's kind of a mute point. Not as good as Kobe's final game. And Derek Jeter ending his career on a walk off at Yankee Stadium. That's up there. Um, but just overall final games, there's nothing quite like Kobe's 60-point game, getting the win as well, and being clutch as shit. There's nothing quite like it. Angel, I'll ask you, what is your favorite Kobe Bryant moments, just stuff that you remember about the Mamba?
Oh man, the 81 points. I mean, unforgettable. Probably the closest anybody would ever get to that Bill Russell record. I'm sure people were probably thinking is tonight probably the night when he breaks it. I mean, that's something that I mean, out of from when that record was set from Bill Russell till now, that's the only person who's even gotten close to even touching that. And especially in this time of basketball, and people thought it'd never be broken. And I mean, he didn't break it, but he definitely showed like there's potential here. There's something here that can maybe happen. And I mean, now in the NBA with all these, you know, freedom of movement rules and stuff like that, I mean, it just gives you a bit of hope of maybe one day someone will come along and do something about it. I mean, that's one. And I mean, and a heartbreaking one for me. I mean, Kobe, sent the Suns out multiple times out of the Western Conference playoffs, and I mean, in comebacks, and and I can't even hate. I mean, in takeover moments, I can't hate on greatness. Sure, those moments were heartbreaking to me because I loved that was my team, and when that is my team, and I mean, like I said, you can't hate on greatness. I can't hate on anybody for being good. I mean, if at least that's what I think. And something I heard recently is like if they're not hating on you, you must not be doing it right. So I'm sure Kobe had a lot of that, and I mean he was doing it right. Um, I mean overall just good guy. I mean, and then like another favorite moment, just him. Recently at games, watching a lot of the young guys. He was there for Booker. uh, when he had that big game and he had his support and he wrote him some stuff and I'm sure he would mentor him and text him and do whatever he would have to do and went to Luka's game, saw Luka play, talked to him, took time out of his day to speak to him and have a conversation with him. And I mean I mean there was any moment where he was like out of retirement at a game I thought was awesome. And not even just at just basketball games, but anything, WNBA games, whatever. Uh, it was I probably enjoyed I enjoyed a lot of him outside of basketball too, just because it was kind of cool to see him, still be active in the media. I mean, you get a lot of guys who are still around but aren't maybe in the public eye as much. And I mean, I mean, just to give you an example, like Jordan, and it's not even because Jordan isn't out there. I mean, he owns a team, but it's like I don't think you see him out there as much to the extent of maybe Kobe, and even more recently, maybe Wade, maybe now just because, recently with the ESPN stuff. But, I'd say player-wise, there's a lot of players who they kind of just they leave the league and they're kind of, they're generally pretty silent. They're not out there. They're not maybe doing it crazy a lot, or maybe they are, but it's just not maybe seen in the public eye a lot. And I think we got to see a lot of that with Kobe. Uh, and I mean, and I think that's just generally great to still have that person out there in the media.
Yeah, I think that's probably part of the reason why it was so shocking is because he was still in the public eye. A lot of these guys, NBA players, retired people that pass away, they're generally not in the public eye anymore. It's part of the reason why it doesn't hit so hard, But Kobe was literally at the Lakers game whenever LeBron passed him, and he's been at games this season, not even Laker games. He's gone to a couple Hawks games, a couple Nets games. He's been here and there. He has a show on ESPN Plus called Detail. Like he's fucking there. He's active on Twitter, the whole thing. He's active on social media. He's still around. And even though he's retired, it didn't feel like he was retired because he was retired from the game of basketball, but he wasn't retired from the public eye. He was still out there. He was still doing things, and he was still making the rounds. Like it's not like he was still in the public eye. He was still there, and that's why it was so surprising because we all. It's like, listen, a weird thing is coming to grips with your own reality, and this isn't even applying to sports, and this is applying to life in general. At some point, not to be a fucking asshole, but generally speaking, your time's gonna be up at a point. But I don't think anybody thought Kobe Bryant to be at the age of 41. I don't think anybody expected this to happen to her. Like we all kind of Kobe. I figured at one point, like I never thought about it, but I was like, oh yeah, Kobe Bryant's probably gonna die in my lifetime. I never thought about that, but yeah, that's something that's the reality of the situation. But I didn't expect it to be, you know, Sunday. I didn't expect it to be anytime soon. I didn't expect it to be for another 30 or 40 years, God forbid. And a guy like Kobe, I'd like, especially in the way that it happened, I would much rather believe the headline Kobe Bryant saves people in a helicopter crash than Kobe Bryant dies in a helicopter crash. Like I talked about that with a couple of my friends. I was like, yo, like that headline just didn't seem real to me. I was like, Kobe Bryant helicopter crash? Oh shit! So he must have piloted the helicopter and fucking everybody's okay though, but just small complication. It's just surreal. But something I've seen is a lot of players changing their number. If they either had 8 or 24, I'm seeing that they've changed their number. And I know Spencer Dinwiddie was one of those. He changed it to 26, I believe, um, from 8. And I know that 24 was not officially done yet, but Mark Cuban said 24 will never be worn by a Mavs player again. Um, and it's with the players doing it as well. Not all of them. I've seen some. Buddy Hield is one that want to keep 24 to honor Kobe. But do you think that his either one or both of his jerseys will be retired league wide? Because that seems to be the idea that's being put forth by a lot of players and Mark Cuban.
I mean, I'm sure there'll be teams and organizations that come out and just decide to do it. I don't know if it'll be a league-wide thing, and I mean, if it is, I mean that's good. I mean, it's just, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a number, but it's also a number that represents someone, and a lot of times numbers are connected to the people. I mean, 23, Jordan. I mean, when you think Jordan, you probably think 23, and then when you think Kobe, you probably think 24, number 8, or both, depending. I mean, some people see him as a different player. Each number, number 8 is this player, and 24 is this player. So. I mean, they might, and if they do, that's cool. That's a cool thing. I mean, at the end of the day, an organization shouldn't feel forced to do it or have to do it.
Yeah. I think that's a decent idea that it will actually be retired league wide. I'm pretty sure Jordan's number. I'm pretty sure there was talk of doing it for Jordan, but it never actually happened. So I think Jordan's number is retired by some organization that's not the Bulls. I don't know who it is, but I read this a while ago. It might be the Mavs. I don't know who it is, but like I'm pretty sure his number is retired by somebody. It could be the wrong sport, but I'm 99% sure. But um anyways, so I think the idea of retiring his number league wide. I just looked it up right now. Michael Jordan's number 23 is retired by the Miami Heat. So, I think having it league wide is a good idea. I think 24. I think that's especially since that's the one he ended his career with. I think that one makes logistical sense, especially since the players won it. The thing I don't necessarily agree with is changing the NBA's logo. I think that's kind of something that is a bit of a stretch, especially because it's kind of a slippery slope we're getting to at that point of like what happens if something happens, God forbid, to Jordan or LeBron, are we going to do the same thing? Um, and some people have never liked the NBA logo, so that's a little bit different. But um, I just I agree with the number retiring, not with the logo situation. But I guess we can move on to other stuff. Angel, do you have anything else to add on this, or do you want to?
I mean, not too much. I mean, I saw Jerry West came out and he said he wouldn't have I think there's, or at least I saw some headline that said they wouldn't have a issue with that or any problem with that, or I think he said he would like it to be or whatever. Which, I mean, I thought was interesting. I mean, I know there's a big petition out there wanting Lily to become Kobe to become the logo now for the NBA. I think it has over like 2 million signatures or something like that. I know it's something outlandish though.
Yeah. He obviously wouldn't have a problem with it because he's very, he knew him and he was very respectful. So.
Oh, and yeah, he knew him very well. I saw and I'm sure you've probably seen them all the stuff on ESPN where they all kind of talk about memories of Kobe being just there for them and stuff like that. At least I saw all of them. I saw the Dwayne Wade one, the Shaq one. I saw, the what was it, Charles Barkley one, all of them. And I mean, even I love the honesty out of the guys. I mean, They were like, I mean, I think it was Charles Barkley and someone else who said, I'm not gonna lie to you, I wasn't extremely close with Kobe after the game, or even, maybe in the NBA as well. So I thought that was interesting that they said that and came out about that.
Yeah, but to kind of there was other stuff that happened. None of it really seemed consequential after Kobe passed away, and I didn't even watch the fights live, and I didn't actually watch them until I believe Tuesday. But there was UFC on Saturday night. It wasn't a very intensive card, wasn't a very great one, but it did happen. It was UFC Fight Night Rally, and on ESPN Plus, on that platform. Curtis Blades, Junior Dos Santos, top 5 heavyweights. I said I didn't like this matchup for JDS. I was very adamant on that. I was like, this guy's coming off a loss. He's getting up there in age, and he's facing a young, hungry lion. And JD's taking a lot of punishment. He's facing a guy in Blades that is rapidly improving fight to fight. I didn't expect Blades to improve this much. If you guys watched the fight, I did. I was very, very surprised at Curtis Blades' performance. Obviously, winning via TKO in the second round, he buzzed him multiple times to the big right hand. In the second one, he hit him with it up near the cage at the start of the second, and he was just done. He hit him right behind the ear, and he just covered up. And that was it. Curtis Blades dominating the fight on the feet, which was the most surprising thing. Junior Dos Santos, if there's one thing the dude still got, he still can crack, and he still got pretty good boxing. And he lit JDS up like a Christmas tree. He absolutely just dominated that fight. Got the TKO finish. Very surprised, and now he's in a position in heavyweight, and heavyweight's a bit of a clusterfuck. And I think that's kind of what the overall point of this discussion is about to be. Two questions, Angel. What did you think of Blade's performance, and what does the UFC do right now? Because Stipe Miocic has been gone for 6 months already. But DC's ready to fight, and they were going to do the trilogy, but Stipe said he doesn't want to fight DC. He's still not even cleared. Francis is on a 35 winning streak, and so is Blades. So, Angel, play matchmaker. What do you do if you're the UFC's position, and how do you figure out the heavyweight standstill?
Oh man, I mean, realistically, I'd probably be pushing for that Stipe DC fight. Obviously, wouldn't push Stipe too hard. I mean, I would want him to be, healthy and obviously, be comfortable with how he is. But I'm, going into that, I'm 100% sure probably DC's gonna, probably retire after that fight 100%. There's no doubt in my mind that I doubt he'll try to defend the title against this new young and very strong blood that's coming up all through the heavyweight class. But I mean, matchmaking wise, I mean, you already got Ngannou versus it was Rosenstruck set up.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably, I mean, I probably like just say fuck it. Whoever wins that fights Curtis Blades, and then after that, maybe just say fucking just do the interim title right there. If the UFC really wants to push that, if they just don't want to wait on Stipe or DC that long and just kind of have Stipe and DC kind of as just like a just for the trilogy, no title involved or anything.
Yeah. Personally, that's kind of where the problem comes in though, because Francis has already beaten Curtis twice, and neither one was close. Like, he TKO'd him twice. That's my personal issue with it, is because Curtis Blades is on a great win streak right now. Justin Willis, Shamil Abdurrahimov, and JDS. 2 of those were TKOs, and the other one was like a 30-25 decision where he knocked down Justin Willis, who before that he'd beaten Mark Hunt. So the dude definitely had some nice wins under his belt. Obviously, Ngannou, TKO Blades, KO Velasquez, and TKO JDS. Here's the issue: is that Stipe Miocic and his management are being very picky about when they're going to come back. Stipe, actually, I missaid something earlier. Stipe has been cleared, but they said they're not going to rush it. They said, he will fight this year and against somebody who has not faced before. So I guess Stipe doesn't want to give him the rematch because DC didn't want to give him the rematch. DC wanted to fight Brock, but that's some revision history bullshit, which I very much dislike whenever the subject comes up, because people are like, he ducked Stipe. He didn't want to give him the rematch. And he's like, listen, if the Brock fight doesn't happen, I'll give Stipe the rematch. And the general agreement that came out, like not general agreement, but both fighters knew. The week before, I saw reports coming in weeks prior to that fight that the winner will face Brock Lesnar. So it's not exactly like if Stipe won, he'd pull this massive, giant favor to DC to give him a rematch the first time around. That was their agreement, and the Brock fight fell apart, so he fought Stipe. So Stipe and his management really not wanting to give DC the opportunity does not seem. It's not cool to me. But regardless, they're entitled to do what they want, but the UFC is going to do what they want as well. And the UFC is known to not exactly be the kindest towards champions that don't want to defend. Obviously, Jermaine Durandamy got stripped whenever she didn't want to fight Chris Cyborg. They've stripped champions in the past. They just recently stripped Henry Cejudo, so because he didn't want to fight at 125. He didn't want to fight Benavidez. So if Stipe is actually cleared and they're like, we want to give his eye more time and we don't want to fight DC and we don't want to fight Francis, that opens up the door for Blades. But there's too many working parts to kind of figure out the situation for me. If Stipe doesn't want to fight, I think you should just strip him. Like that's always been my opinion. I think if somebody wants to fight and they don't want to fight the number one contender and they want to pick and choose, this isn't fucking boxing. I don't think you should be allowed to do that. In boxing, you're to an extent, obviously there's sanctioning bodies, but to an extent, you're allowed to pick and choose who you want to fight. But in the UFC, I've always liked that they don't allow that. You're supposed to fight who they tell you to fight, the number one contender. And DC is a guy that's an all-time great, a guy that knocked Stipe out the first time around and dominated about, how long did that fight go? About 20 minutes? He dominated about 18 minutes of that 20-minute fight. And got a 10-8 in the first. I think he's also the number one contender, former light heavyweight champion. I don't need to go over his accolades. He deserves the trilogy fight, and DC said he'll retire afterwards. But if they want to pull something where it's like DC versus Ngannou for an interim, or DC versus Blades for an interim, or let's say Rosenstruik wins, and then that throws the whole thing into it. Rosenstruik versus Stipe seems fine. Like there's a lot of avenues where they can go where this is all awesome. Also something to look out for still, Brock Lesnar. I saw Dana White gave him an interview with Aaron Bronsteter at TSN, and they were doing kind of like a betting game. It was like, what are the odds on this happening? It was kind of a way to get Dana to kind of open up about questions, and it's always a very fun thing to watch. You guys should give it a watch. And he's like, odds on Brock Lesnar, like fighting in 2020. And he's like, yeah, I'll take that. I'll say yes. So maybe Brock Lesnar comes back. You never know. But yeah, so that's all we got for UFC this week, and not exactly a whole lot of stuff there to talk about. Now we're gonna move on to the NBA. It's gonna be NBA centric. It was to start the podcast. We're gonna end it NBA heavily. I guess we could talk about other stuff like the Super Bowl, which we're pretty much homers. We're both gonna pick the Chiefs, I'm assuming. And then Edge returned to WWE, but I don't think we're gonna talk about that. Fuck yeah, I love Edge.
That was beautiful. I saw that. Spirit everyone.
That made me really happy. I actually bought the WWE Network just to see that match, see his return.
I wish I would have done the same. Wish I would have done the same.
Like,
I just saw it.
He looks great too. He looks great.
It made everybody happy. I love everybody's reaction, dude. Everybody had the greatest reaction on planet Earth. Like once the music came on, everybody it blew up. It was great, dude. I couldn't believe the hype.
It was like he returned to WrestleMania because they did it in a baseball stadium. So there was like 40,000 people there.
Oh, so really?
Yeah, giant crowd. And like I've seen so many crowd shots and everybody's losing their shit. It's like I've watched his return of like the music hitting at least 20 times since it's happened.
I'm watching it right now.
as we're talking, like literally right now. Dude, it made me so happy because that was Sunday. I needed to cheer up, and I saw that happen. Like, what the fuck? Like I was so like crying tears of joy. Like I was like, fucking yes, dude. Like hell yeah. Like,
the guy who got me into wrestling. I saw that man retire.
I did. I nearly cried when that man retired. You know, like that was so emotional, and to see him coming back. And not only that, but he looked in great shape, and he looked like he put on a great performance. It wasn't even like a lot of these dudes come out and they look like shit because they're they're older. Edge still isn't that old. I think he's 44, which for wrestling terms, like for normal people, that sounds pretty old. But wrestling's different than other sports. Like you can go until you're fucking 60, depending on the type of match. Like and depending on what you do.
No holds bars.
You could, dude. Ric Flair wrestled when he was like 62, so like you can depending on what you do.
Hey
Um,
man, it's that Viking bod.
he's actually one of the better actors on that show. So,
No man.
yeah, but Edge came back. That was dope. MVP, if you guys know Montel Vontavious Porter, he also came back at the Royal Rumble. That match itself was one of the best WWE matches I've seen in a long time. Like that was like it told a great story. There was a great winner. Edge came back. It was fucking great. Fucking good shit. Now I realize that we're the only two ones that probably watched it out of our entire audience. So let's move on. Let's move on to the NBA. The All Star starters were released. I believe it was last Friday. From the East, Trae Young, Kemba Walker, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Pascal Siakam, and Joel Embiid. From the West, Luka Doncic, James Harden, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, and Anthony Davis. Now, I saw some had issues with the All-Star East starters, but I guess I'll ask you: do you have any issues? Personally, I think this is the way to go. I like the starters for both teams. I have no problems with any of them. But overall, do you think this was kind of the way to go for all-star starters? Like, do you think this is a fine overall matchup?
I mean, it'll be fun, but it's definitely like Trey. It's like, let me say this. Booker could have been an all-star for the West for long, and granted, in a very stacked West. But it's like they got Trey on the 12 and 36 Hawks as a starter in the East, which kind of gives you an idea of how weak the East is. And Depot isn't around, and I think if Depot was, Oladipo would probably be there instead of Trey.
Yeah.
I think that's how
That's
it'd
fair.
be. And then at the same time, it's like Kyrie could probably be in there. There's a couple guys that could probably put in there. You know what I mean? No D Rose, sadly. Is Paul
Yeah, but
should?
I could see him making in as like an alternate, not as like a starter. I never thought
Oh
he was gonna make
yeah,
it as a starter.
oh yeah. But he's having a good season though. So maybe just for the memes, they would have thrown him in there, and I would appreciate that. Granted, the All Star game isn't like a big thing, but generally it's like the best group of players that year on on that side of the country.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, it's good as far as what it is. It's good. I mean they have all the guys we want to watch, all the exciting guys, and it looks good on paper.
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot of issues. I think that like Trey is definitely an interesting pick. Like I don't have necessarily a problem with it, but like it's tough due to injuries and maybe guys not playing up to their expectations as like previous years. Like previous years, obviously Kyrie, but but also you can argue that Trey has been better this year overall, which is what makes it. He's putting up 29 points a game, 4.5 rebounds, 9 assists. I got no problems with that. Um, I think it's interesting that Luka he made his first All Star game, which is dope, and he also made his a starter, which kind of, I mean, come to think of it, I wasn't the only other person they could probably put in over him was probably Westbrook. Like, just being honest, like maybe Dame, but like that was not going to happen. Um, but I was surprised, but also it's well deserved. He's having a phenomenal season. He's also at the age of 20. He's leading the shit out of that team. The dude can't even drink yet, and he's fucking killing it. He's an
Well, not in
all-star.
this country.
Well, yeah, that's true. Not in this country.
Yeah.
He can't drink in Dallas. Actually, I'm sure they would let him. He's fucking Luka Doncic. But he's fucking killing it. And like I said, the only person I could see getting over him would probably be Russell or Dame. Like, I'm biased, so I think CP3's been killing it, but he's not even gonna make the All-Star game. I don't think. Like, his numbers don't flash off the page, but he's been so good for this team. Um, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, overall, I got no problems with the All-Star starters. I think that they're pretty balanced, pretty good. Like I said, you can argue certain people, but I overall don't have an issue.
No Taco Fall, breaking our hearts sadly.
No Caruso, which is a giant surprise.
Giant upset here.
Giant upset. No Alex Caruso. I saw a lot of people getting pissed off because in fan voting he was like pretty high up there, and I wasn't gonna make a big thing about it because people were getting super upset. They're like, we shouldn't let fans vote, and I'm like,
It's
fan
not like
vote.
it doesn't even matter.
Fan vote really doesn't matter because fan vote is 1/3. So they get overruled by players and coaches. I believe it's like players, coaches, media. So they get overruled. So it doesn't really fucking matter. But yeah, they can get upset. It's all right. Yeah, but honestly though, Caruso got robbed. But I saw this last night. Last night was the matchup of was Westbrook and Dame. The rivalry just keeps on going. It's never gonna end. Last night, Dame and the Trailblazers beat Russell and the Rockets. Full credit to Russell Westbrook, by the way. This guy's really turned it around because I don't want to. He was playing like OKC Russ, like the guy that got desperate at times to start the season, and you can't play that way with James Harden on your team. And he's taken a back seat. He's of his last 3 games, he shot like 4 3-pointers. He's last night he put up 39 points, 16 for 29 shooting, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals. The game before that, 32 points, 14 for 29 shooting, only 1 3-pointer that he even shot. He's doing what he does best, and he's really turning it around. I kind of want to give him a shout out on that. My boy is still making me proud, even though he plays for Houston. But part of the beef with Dame and Russell last night, Dame beat him, and I believe the second time in a row the Trailblazers have beaten the Rockets. And I saw that apparently they were talking trash, and Dame said to him like, "You don't want to see me in the playoffs," or something along those lines. And I thought that was really interesting. And Angel can answer this question in a sec, but I kind of want to get my thoughts first. The Blazers, Dame said that I don't think the Blazers are gonna make the playoffs. I've been waiting for it all season, and this is kind of a way for us to talk about standings and standings talk and all that. But I don't think the Blazers are even gonna make the playoffs. Right now, if we were to start today, and we're close to the All-Star break, which is a bad sign. Like it's not even like we're that like early into the season. The Blazers are 10th, and they're 21 and 27. They've won 2 in a row, so we'll give them credit there, but they're still behind the Spurs and the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies standing at 500. One of the more surprising things of the season is the Grizzlies. Also one of the more surprising. Like honestly, here's how it's looking. Like obviously the one through like 7, they can change a little, but I don't think there's going to be much variation. The Mavs, Rockets, and Thunder all have 29 wins. Those teams are all going to make the playoffs. I'm a little bit disappointed in the Rockets. I think they should be way better, given Harden and Westbrook's chemistry and how great those players are, how great they are overall. But I suppose that's kind of the issue with having them on the same team in the first place. And then obviously, Mavs. We expect them to be good, but I don't think anybody expected them to be this good. Jazz at 4. Jazz went on a run. Nuggets at 3. Not very surprising. And then the Clippers and Lakers 1 and 2, which is kind of what people are expecting to start off the season. Clippers struggled a bit, to start the year, but right now the Lakers 36 and 10. They're going to keep that 1 seed. They're going to be there to probably end the season, if I were to guess. If not, they're going to be a 2. I don't think anybody passes them. I don't think the Nuggets are going to do it. I just don't think they can stay as good for those 82 games to pass the Lakers or the Clippers. But overall, I don't think the Blazers are even going to make the playoffs. And this is something interesting because they're probably my biggest disappointment this season. You've got teams like I had high expectations for the Pistons, but the second that Blake Griffin went down, I didn't expect them to do as well. Nets at 20 and 26, pretty disappointing, but at the same time, I think we all kind of knew that this is a team that, without KD, they lost some pieces, like really just relying on Kyrie and Spencer Dinwiddie and guys like that. They'd still be the AFC if playoffs started. But right now, the Trailblazers are probably my biggest disappointment. And after Dame saying about talking trash to Russell about you don't want to see me in the playoffs, you don't want this, you don't want that, and I'm like, I don't think you're gonna make the playoffs, fam. Angel, do you think the Trailblazers are even gonna make the playoffs? Do you think that they're one of the bigger disappointments of this season? Because to me, they are.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it sucks for them because it's more due to the fact that they lost like those good role players they had, and I mean that just goes to show how important it is to have role players around you. I mean, going forward, it's gonna be tough. I mean, if anything, they're gonna have to fight for that AC. But it's like, you know, you're gonna be fighting with the Suns, the Spurs, and the Grizzlies, and maybe even the Pelicans at this point for that A seed. I still think maybe to a certain extent the 7 seed's still available, but it'd be very hard to push for that. I mean, five through seven are starting to kind of go away. I mean, if you're below, if you're down low, you're probably gonna just be aiming for that A seed at this point. Uh, Even with the reinforcement of Carmelo, it's gonna be a tough going forward because he did not have a great start to the season without him there. Maybe if they would have got him a little sooner, maybe it'd be a different conversation, and maybe they'd be in playoff talk already, and not even maybe they'd be struggling and be kind of in and out. But now, I mean, right now it doesn't look too good, and it kind of sucks because it's those guys are probably guys who should be in the playoffs but aren't just because of situation and how things panned out.
Yeah, one of the more cool storylines of this season was Melo coming to Portland, and he was playing his ass off, and he's getting him in that position where, like, oh shit, Portland really might make the playoffs because to start the season for the first 20 or 30 games, they were bottom two in the West, and Melo came over, he gave him that jump, he shocked him back to life, and they started getting back on the comeback trail, and they have won two in a row, but overall after that, they've still they've gone back downhill. They've returned back to earth, and they're still in that 10th spot. But the Suns are right on their ass. Like the Pelicans of Zion are turning it around. They've won two in a row. The Kings still there, and obviously that 8th seed is still pretty much up for grabs. The Grizzlies have a 3-game lead over the Spurs and the Blazers, but 3 games in an 82-game season goes really doesn't mean as much as it would. Obviously, the top 7 are pretty much set. But to me, the Trailblazers are the biggest disappointment. I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs. And part of the reason why it's so disappointing to me is not even because making the playoffs in the West that we thought this was gonna be is not as bad. Because I remember starting the season, the general consensus was, "Holy shit, the West is gonna be a bloodbath." That was the thing. The Pelicans with Zion, the Lakers and the Clippers is gonna be a fucking war. The Mavs with Luka, they're gonna be killing it. Luka and Porzingis. The Jazz look great. The Nuggets look great. The Thunder have CP3. Who am I kidding? Nobody cared about the Thunder except for me. But the Spurs have always been around, and obviously the Warriors. But that's not what the West is right now. Zion was injured. The Warriors are a shell of a team. The Rockets have been an up and down mess all year. Clippers, Kawhi and Paul George are barely ever on the same court at the same time. The Spurs have been honestly bad, and there's been shock teams to kind of come out. The Suns are more competitive than people thought. Nobody expected the Thunder to be as good as they are, except for maybe me. Because I said they can battle for a playoff spot. Not only are they battling for a playoff spot, they're pretty much going to be in the playoffs. Barring an incredible collapse in the second half of the season, they're going to be in the playoffs. Grizzlies are being good. But even then, you can clearly see that a team like Portland has the talent that should be above those squads. Except for maybe the Thunder, I don't think the Suns should not be right there with the Blazers. The Grizzlies should not be ahead of the Blazers. The Spurs should arguably not be ahead of the Blazers. But that's why it's so disappointing to me personally. It's because they've been a team that should be there. They should not be the 10th seed. They should be around the 6th spot. They should be above 500. They should not be 6 games below. So, to me, they're the biggest disappointment of the season. And him talking trash to Russell about being in the playoffs, I don't even think he was going to make the playoffs. So, to even kind of have that rivalry, which would be awesome because I love seeing them show down in the playoffs, especially whenever my team's not involved. But as we inch closer to the deadline and as we inch closer to the All-Star week and all that shit, which obviously is around the deadline, what player or players do you think are most likely to be dealt? Because we see rumors all the time around the deadline about one player is going to go here, this player's going to go there. But if there was a person that you had to pick, what player do you think 100% is going to be gone by the deadline?
Oh, no, 100% would be gone? Oh, man. I mean, there's players who I think probably should be moved more than anything than probably 100% gone. I mean, I think Iggy's probably that piece that I think should be moved 100% from the Grizzlies. Like there has to be some sort of move there. I hope. Mainly because it's like that, because the Grizzlies can benefit a lot from it, and another team can benefit from a lot from it, and it won't really be a lose situation as long as you don't get rid of any maybe like potential picks or pieces. If it's just a straight Iggy trade and you get a second round pick, I think that'd be great. Because I mean that's I mean a pick's just great for trade later on. So I mean if you can get rid of Iggy for a second round pick, maybe get maybe one other thing in return, I think that'd be awesome. I think he's probably one of the guys who'll probably be dealt pretty quick.
Yeah, I would actually be surprised if he would be dealt, because to me, I don't see where he'd go. Like we've heard about teams wanting him, but I feel like they kind of would have made that move by now.
I mean, it's probably been I imagine it's been a matter of negotiation more than anything, because he's definitely a good guy. I guess maybe no one's had they got to pull trigger on it yet. Maybe the Grizzlies are asking for too much. Maybe they're playing too much with their food. But I mean, definitely, I think he's definitely a guy who's like fits perfectly into any team that's probably competing and wants to try to win, uh, just because of the role he can play.
Yeah, that's fair. Personally, the player that I think most likely to be traded, especially considering I've seen a lot of rumors around this player specifically, and honestly, it kind of suck. Does that mean he would not be an all-star? Depending on where he went, actually. But Derrick Rose has been reported to be traded to a lot of teams. Mavs, Lakers, 76ers are the top ones that I've seen. I think the Lakers is probably the team he fits with best, but I think he's going to be dealt, and that makes me really, really happy, because that man deserves to be on a contender, and this is really his comeback year, without a doubt, 100%. He especially turned it around. He's had, I think, 10 games in a row of like 21 plus points or something like that, 10 or 11 in a row. It's probably, saw that it was a long streak of his career, and he's still been killing it. I'm surprised you can throw in Drummond in there as a guy that's going to be traded. Not definitely, but I could absolutely see him being traded. D Rose is a pretty cheap contract. It's only $7 million. And he's been playing his ass off this season. 19, 2 and 6, doing it on about 50% shooting. So that's pretty fucking good. I would be surprised if he stayed in Detroit. I don't see Detroit keeping him around unless it's for something like ticket sales, because D Rose is a name, and they need names in Detroit right now, because they're not going to make the playoffs and they have nothing to play for. Actually, the worst part is they technically within striking distance of that playoff spot. I think they're only a couple games behind, so they're not out of it yet. But I think they're going to make the move. I think they should just trade their pieces, because right now they really don't have a whole lot, and they should just go for it. They really should just go for it. And I'd love to see D Rose go to somewhere like the Lakers, because God bless Rajon Rondo. He's not doing a whole lot for that team right now. So yeah, I think D Rose and maybe Drummond are probably my top two to be traded, like most likely. Throw in maybe somebody like K Love's not a bad pick, because he clearly wants out of Cleveland. He desperately wants to get the fuck out of Cleveland. But I think D Rose, Drummond, the top ones most likely to be traded.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we still. I mean, everything. Just generally, just how throughout time, when it comes to NBA trade, uh, deadline, it's usually during that last week, that last day, those last 2 3 days when all the stuff goes down. So, I mean, this week, because I think was the last day, the 8th, 6th. It's this coming week. I know that.
Yeah.
I know I looked it up earlier or yesterday. But that's when all this stuff goes down. I mean, you'll probably hear a lot of rumors now. Yeah, NBA trade line the 6th, so it's coming up on us. So all this stuff's gonna go down this next week. So keep your Woj notifications on. Stay active on Twitter, because everything's about to go down here soon, and it's gonna be interesting. Because I mean, one player can change a lot on a team. A team can pick up a player and go on a crazy win streak with the team, and just want to go on a tear. I mean, it's happened before. Just keep an eye out for that.
keep an eye out for that, and keep out for tonight, because I believe tonight is when we're actually going to see all the All-Stars announced. I believe tonight's the night.
That's some hype right there.
Some hype right there. I would love to see D Rose make it in. That, like I said, that's what I desperately want. I think it's absolutely possible. It's within the realm of possibility, given the situation in the East right now. Um, who I want to see make it almost as bad as D Rose, Devin Booker. If Devin Booker does not make it, it's bullshit. Just want to put that one out there. So,
Yeah.
Do you got anything else, Angel, before we wrap up?
No, I mean, just, obviously check all our platforms, stuff like that. Like, subscribe, follow us, rate the podcast, all that. Next week we'll be a lot happier. Hopefully, a lot more content. I'm pretty sure we got some good UFC. Obviously, by then we'll be talking a lot of NBA trade stuff. Obviously tonight, we got some boxing, so we'll talk about that. And so next podcast should be a little bit more exciting and have be a little bit more upbeat. Just of the nature of what happened. We wanted to bring it up and talk and remember Kobe. But yeah, I mean that's all I have to say.
That's all I got to say. But yeah, next week it's going to be a lot more stuff. UFC, I'm going out to Invicta that Friday, so we'll probably preview that and stuff like that. Gib, Jake's tonight, Keeler Andrade, DAZN. If you guys want to see those fights, that's going to be dope. Talk about the trade shit, all that stuff that you just mentioned. So you guys can follow us on YouTube, Courtside Soundoff on YouTube. YouTube's been fucking killing it. I don't even need to really address it. But the Jake Paul Gibbs stuff has actually been giant for our channel. UFC 246 is a big thing as well. Courtside Soundoff on Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you can think to get podcasts, we're most likely there. Your favorite platform. Thank you guys for all the support. Yeah, at Courtside Sound 1 on Twitter, which is the main avenue to find all of our content and all of our stuff. And Courtside Soundoff on Facebook and Instagram, despite the fact those are not really used. Thank you guys for listening, and we really appreciate it and all the views and all the support. So we got to go, though. So peace and butt grease. Mouse click.